Let's just do it anyway. Hi, I'm OBG. Right, okay, yeah, sounds working. Just about made it today. It's going to be a short show today, actually. I absolutely am knackered. Right, I've just got a few more things to sort out. I do like to go out on time, even if I'm not totally ready, just to say I'm going out on time. So, yeah, if anyone's there and if there's any problems with sound or vision, just let me know. I'll be looking over every now and then at the screen. So let's have a look. 1 2 1 2. Okay, this is live. Let's get the live link. Stream URL. Copy. Let's go back over to Facebook and let's post again. That doesn't work. So let's try. Never mind. Okay. So, yeah, I'm live again. I'm just going to be shooting the breeze for a little bit, see if anyone comes in. I got in, well, I started on time, to be honest. I started at 9 o'clock, but I was in a bit of a rush. Just had to sort out a few technical pieces here. And I'll be kicking off with the topics that I plan to talk about real soon. It's been a good week as it goes. It went past really fast, I've got to say. It went past very fast. Let's see who's on. Okay, get rid of that. Go to main screen. Cosmic Star 77. How you doing there? Yeah, got off to a bit of a slow start. I'll warm up soon. It's been a good week, and no complaints really. Everything's wonderful, and I'm not making that up. And things are just good because I make them that way, and I don't have any special power. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a person who just tries to make good or pretends things are good when they're bad, but I do tend to make good of a bad situation. Not that I think there are bad situations, truly, all the time, because we're spoiled, basically, and we tend to attribute things as being bad when things simply just don't happen the way that we wanted them to, and that's a luxury, really. I think in Europe we're not really struggling much these days for much. You know, things are bad, there's no doubt about that, you know, when you look at politics and the economy, but you know, but we're alive. That's what's important. We're good, you know. We've got food on the table, almost all of us, and you know, my heart goes out to those who haven't, but we don't hear their voice often, and this is why I often talk about class and so on. The voices that we are hearing, here we go, you know, the voices of the middle classes, they've got other power, the spending power, and then the upper classes, but the upper classes, they tend to be the ones who are feeding this stuff. They're the ones who own all the big stores and, you know, movie production and book production, get their books published and so on, and the middle classes buy into that and then quote all of that nonsense as if it's gospel. And if there's like YouTube channels, you find that all the early channels that come out, people with like expensive cameras and setups and so on, once again, they're the middle classes in the main. And we keep hearing their voice. I want to hear the voice of the working class more often, to be honest, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this show as well. It's about hearing all those other voices. Just bear with me a second. Hello, Mr. Dan Fonzie. Also, Dan Fonzie's a musician. He claimed he's quitting. I won't say his reasons for quitting, but I think he should carry on. He's a bloody good musician. I jam to his music anyway. And I'll probably, well, not even probably, I'll play one or two of his tracks soon, either as an intro or an outro for the show. And you can get a feel for some of that music also. So let me kick off anyway, regardless. Recently, I've been feeling a little bit old. Not in a negative way. Not that being old is negative, but I'm starting to feel like I'm slowing down, and slowing down at a pace faster than ever before. More grunts and groans when I stand up, more grunts and groans when I, mount the stairs, more grunts and groans in general, and not liking stuff, And I don't know if not liking stuff as an older person is... you're back on the music, Dan. I don't know if... send me your latest tune. I don't know if you've done one with Gina the other day, but do send it, whatever you made. So I don't know if being grumpy when you're old is either, one, you really just don't give a damn, and so you're being more honest, or, you're being dishonest and, like, you just don't really get what's going on. Because I found myself at one point saying things like, oh, that music's rubbish. Then, because I've maintained contact with a lot of my younger friends, they say things to me like, oh, no, that music's not too bad, you should listen to it. I'm not talking about young people who just say, like, oh, yeah, this music's great, I love Coldplay or stuff. I'm talking about people who know me. Even on a brief meeting, they'll just say, well, no, actually, and then I'll listen to their voices. I'll go and listen to the music they suggested, and they're very rarely wrong. And, for instance, when I was in Nicaragua, I was hanging around with a Canadian woman, and I said, oh, I don't really listen to, what's his name? Not Jay-Z. What's the name of that rapper everyone claims not to like? Jesus Christ, I just watched about 3 hours of him in concert day before yesterday. Anyway, the name's escaped me now. This is beautiful. This is sign of old age also, and it's meant to be a phase. Apparently you get a bad memory round about in your like mid-50s, and apparently it improves in your 60s. But nice one, Dan, way to go with the music, making music literally. But Kanye West, that was it. And I'd never listened to Kanye West, because when he came out, I must have been in my like late or mid-40s or so, and I was listening to music. But those of you who are getting older, you know what it's like. You listen to the music that you like. You always got something from the 70s or the 80s or something, and you may listen to some new music, but you tend to write it all off, because the music that we are hearing, every time you go out in a shop or just out in public, it's always some rubbishy pop music. I mean, that's what popular music is anyway. But we kind of stopped listening to the new music. And anyway, I just thought he was just some rap idiot who came along. And many people still do. But I really like the guy. I think he's a psycho. He's like absolutely mad genius. His music's fantastic. There's no denying that for the people who like music, especially his earlier stuff. He's blown up in public a couple of times and said some silly things. But and in his defence, and in the defence of anyone, even if I don't like the person actually, we all say stupid stuff. Every day, once a day, once a week, whatever, but we all say stupid stuff. Now, if you imagine if the whole world was watching you, you've got cameras on you all day long, you'd be caught saying some real stupid stuff and making claims. Now, imagine someone just gives you like 50 million, you get $50 million rich overnight. What are you going to do? It just messes you up. So now, I'm sounding like a Kanye West apologist, because I am. I think he's good. And also, he blew up once on stage and he started talking about the system and how it's, messing people up and so on. And I think that was pretty bold of him. For someone in that position to speak out, it's quite noble. But they hospitalised him, drugged him up to the eyeballs, and when he came out, he became a Trump supporter. So I think, they've done a job on him. But he's still trying to fight it, and it's good to see that, which is much better than some of those other stars that we give credence to, who are not saying anything. All they're doing is taking the money. Look at Eminem, for instance, who I just think is totally overrated. His first 2 albums were bloody good. Like any hungry person, you're out there, you need the money, you work hard, then the money comes in, you get fat, and you don't do much. And also, he's like about, well, how old's Eminem now? He must be about 118, and he's still battle rapping young kids, still, putting young kids down who are trying to make a living and so on, which I think is quite foolish. So back onto the age thing. The thing I want to say is, who are these old people? Because sometimes we see ourselves apart from that small, old, wrinkly person, that long, wiry, loose-skinned individual, and we really engage with them, and we really get to know who they are. And so today I'm going to ask you, who are they? And the simple answer is that they are you, and they're me. And they should always serve as a reminder as to who we are and who we're going to be. And we have to remember that they were once like us, and they were once like our children. They're the people who run around freely and done childish things, but now they're old. Now I'm getting a lot older faster, and I find that people engage with me, but more often there's a look, and I can tell what the look is. It's that look you give to an old guy as you distance yourself from them, and you think that you've got nothing in common. And it also works the opposite way in the way that we interact with young people. We sometimes can shut off and think, they've got nothing to say. But we have to talk to them and never forget where we came from. And we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. But that's a topic for another conversation. Anyway, if we listen to each other, and then we soon realise that we have so much in common. But it requires listening. Otherwise, old people just seem repetitive and boring. And young people, they seem repetitive and clueless, because the old people sometimes forget and regurgitate the same old stories slowly. And the young, they just want to tell you everything they've done and doing, what their plans are, how they're going to change the world and so on. And they haven't got that wisdom, they haven't got that experience, and it's easy to write them off. And I can kind of understand it in a way nowadays. Young people aren't growing up till they're like 25, but you go back a couple of 100 years and people sailing around the world and leading armies into battle, like Joan of Arc when she was 19 years old. So, things have changed. They used to die earlier then, but so they had to grow up quicker. But now we're living for so much longer that, that it's hardly grown up at that age. And I've seen people, I used to do it myself. But as I said, I don't ever claim I'm perfect. When I talk about people as groups, I'm part of whatever group I talk about. Some of them I've moved away from, though. So I've seen people impatiently looking around, for that snide look, that support, to join them in their negative thoughts about the elderly person in front of them in a queue, struggling with change in their purse or their wallet, or misunderstanding the cashier, and having the gall to slow down the queue by asking questions, or people rushing just to gain a few more seconds, as they barge past an elderly person boarding a bus or slowly making their way, through a heavy door at a building where they have to turn up to do business because the government, we're all at the beck and call of the government, form filling and whatever it is. And I think it's always worth making time to talk to older people, because they were once us and we will become them. And many old people have gone past giving a damn, and they're honest, straight talkers. And I don't mean all of them. I mean, there's some people who just have got age on their side, and they use that, they talk and they tell you some bullshit stories. But it's unlike the young people. And when we're young, we tell a lie more or less every time we speak. And my opinion is that it's based around lack of confidence, or simply wanting to appear to be something that young people aren't. And the one thing that older people definitely have is experience. They've seen conflict, they've had sex, they've fought, they've married, they've had children, they've lived wholesome lives, broken the law, everything that everybody else young does. And it's not just that they're shouting out about their sexual habits like young people, because young people do that. That's just a topic for another day. But they do that as a badge of honour, some form of identity, like talking about sex and so on. And it's like, I believe truly it's because they've got nothing else to offer. And you can offer your body up. We know that works in life. But they want to shout out, I fuck. And it's like, who cares? Or I'm into bondage. And it's so fucking what, What do you do? And that's the important thing. So even if old people used to be like that, then they're certainly not like that anymore. And looking at the current generation and those before them, even the generation just before me, they grafted. University wasn't a be-all and end-all. And you could earn enough money for your family as a professional, just a husband working, you could buy a house even, or with skilled work, and you could still enjoy a decent life with an ordinary job. And ask an old person, they'll confirm that for you. And it wasn't, and still isn't, about a university degree, sitting in school for 4 extra years and spending your life scrolling through a phone. We've neglected experience as we neglect the elderly. We've neglected communication as we've neglected the elderly. And we're neglecting the elderly, as always, but mostly in the UK. And I'll say, like, I'm living in Spain now, and in Spain they've got a really strong family ethic. Like the families always... Just bear with me a second. The families, they've got quite tight family bonds, They live in a house with the grandparents, the parents, and then the children of those middle people. And it's the same in many countries in the world. But we come from a wealthy nation, and, we leave home or are kicked out as soon as you're 16, 18, and then we kind of neglect our parents and we neglect our grandparents. But over here, I see young people walking down the street with their grandmothers holding hands, or people in their 30s, 40s, and even I'd say 50s, because I've seen some very old people, and their kids are pushing them in the wheelchairs. Now, it's a bit of an alien thought for us English people. You're like, oh, fuck that, do you know what I mean? You want to be out doing your own thing. But if you grow up with that, if that's your culture, then it's the norm. And I do say this, if you get the chance, grab an older person and grill them. Not everybody will respond, we're all just people after all. But when you get a gem, it will make it all worth it, you know? And we ignore part of us when we neglect the old people. And in my view, if we willfully neglect any part of us and what we potentially are going to be, then we'll never know our true selves. Anyway, moving on. I just want to talk a little bit about enlightenment. I did a video, you can see that on YouTube, a short history of Buddhism. And as I was getting into it, it just reminded me of some of the sights that I've seen while I was traveling around the world, unlike the people I'm going to slate in a moment, but also of the people that I meet, you know, regularly. And they claim that they're enlightened or they're almost there. And they walk around with some kind of air of confidence and arrogance. And let me just say this, there are no shortcuts to enlightenment. Finding yourself or being a better person, you really have to work at finding yourself. Reading a book is part of the journey, but it isn't the answer. And I've seen so many people repeating famous quotes or reading the Four Agreements, taking up Buddhism or yoga, then claiming that they're better people. And that smacks of elitism. Claiming that you're a better person because of a single pursuit just doesn't cut it with me. And the way some people hold themselves and communicate or simply proclaim that they have found the way is boring and annoying. Let me go with Buddhism. So, you know, it's a great idea, but it's only an idea. It's a story about a single man and how he journeyed to find a way. And then after a life of luxury, you know, afforded to him by his parents who brought him up well-mannered and gave him everything he could ever want, he encountered some of the harsh realities of the world and set out on a journey to find himself. And as you can see, it's already starting to sound like the middle and upper class Trustafarians. So, you know, it's like, oh my, I've had such a protected and financially stable life. Now I'm faced with the harsh realities of the world. I need to find myself. And by that, I think they mean they need to just escape for a bit. They need to run away because they can't cope. And this is often followed by a 1 to 12 month stint traveling around the poorest countries in the world, because poor people surely know the answer, unless it's something to do with getting more bang for your buck, but who am I to judge? And falling for the charms of and shagging young Thai, Indian or African boys who for the 100th time that year are whispering into young rich European women's ears that they've never been with a European princess like you before. And then they return home with a bindi, a suitcase full of Indian ornaments and a broken promise to contact their romantic encounter and yoga. A name change and shameless enough to start teaching yoga at £20 a session. Anyway, I think you have to be strong enough to make your own mistakes and to feel for what's right. You know, of course, we need teachers and we need mentors. But people who write books are almost always writers. And they're writers first. And they're making a living from writing. And the journey through life is the way to enlightenment. You can't buy it. Buddha didn't reach enlightenment until he was 35, and that required much meditation, plus Indian surroundings and a population of mostly religious people. Listening to 9 Inch Nails, satanic trashcore, then progressing to Coldplay, whilst living on the fringes of Streatham during university, will likely require more than watching an Alan Watts video, reading the Celestine Prophecies and the Four Agreements, and taking yoga classes. The pursuit is life. It's living, and this is what the enlightenment is. It's not books, not movies, not 2-week yoga retreats. And I have a theory. And I'll be having theories in every show, so don't forget to tune in just for this, okay? Enlightenment comes to us at the end of our days. The final day when you've learned all that you can possibly learn. There will be no tomorrow for you. It's the last day and you will suddenly have a realization about everything. Suddenly everything will make sense. You know, sometimes I can't wait. But until then, I'll keep on loving and judging everybody in the best way that I can, because enlightenment comes at the end of your days. Oh, and for those of you that insist on pointing out that I make fun of groups, so what? It's all part of the journey. I love them all the same. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes I want to post, positive things, minus the complaining, but I won't, I used to wonder why I met so much opposition when I was younger, and it's because I want to hold on to what I consider my truth. Right, bear with me just a second. And it's my truth alone. I don't argue that there is a truth, and I don't want to get into massive debates about people about who's right and wrong, because no one's right. The only way you can be right is by agreement, otherwise you're only right to yourself. And when I met that opposition, I eventually came to the realisation that I was thinking outside of the mainstream, and also that, we're young, so not so many people took it upon themselves to think outside of the box, and we could never truly know what was right and wrong. And I also thought that many people just weren't confident enough to step forward with their weirdness. And it wasn't a weirdness. What I mean by that is you have your own personal thoughts and so on, but you keep getting these messages externally telling you that this is how the world is, this is how the world is. But something in some of us fights against that and says it can't be like this because I'm not getting that experience. It's been forced upon me. I'm being told that this is the way my world is, and my world isn't like that. So people buy into it just to be part of the mainstream. And some of the weird people I talk about, they exhibited it in the way that they dressed, or some of them refused to communicate with regular boring folk. And I still tip my hat to the memory of those weird kids, because some of them I still know, they grew up to be wonderful people. And to be honest, I thought it would be stop as we turned into adults, but nothing much changed as people are still locked into the mainstream. And it's really hard to accept people for most people, and we really should accept whatever it is that people do, including the mainstream, rather than trying to force them to believe in our ideas. For example, people invest so much time in Harry Potter for them, for their kids, and if you consider all the time it takes to read all the books, watch the films, and then spend time talking about it and spending money, yet they're vocal about other people pursuing something that they believe in, like metal or Aleister Crowley books, or, religion even. And it seems that if you spend money and time on the mainstream, and then people accept you more. I posted an image of a pair of trainers on Facebook last week that somebody was trying to market. It was really brightly coloured, and they had Velcro straps on and so on. And they had all the usual blurb, and it had X's in the name, like model X991X or something. And it's been shown in many studies that X is proving to sell and pique people's interest. And you can find info on this if you do a little research. So, X just works. X is almost like it's a symbol, regardless, but it's like it creates. It's like seeing the colour red, And this is why you get an X film, and then double X and triple and quadruple X. More danger. If you see X on a drink, it's dangerous and edgy, and companies like Apple use it for their latest products. It's version 10, but they called it X, put a big X. Microsoft might have got X in their products and so on. X works. And these trainers anyway, I wrote a little statement supporting it, and this just bear with me a sec. And this statement basically was to say that no one really wants these trainers. They're pushed on us. And some people came in and contested that, and that's fine. I don't want people to agree with me all the time. But, they were saying that, we should be more open and people should be allowed to wear what they want. But what I'm saying is, you're not wearing what you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't buy those trainers. Buying those trainers isn't wearing what you want. Buying those trainers is about wearing what someone else wants you to wear. You don't wake up in the morning and think to yourself, what, I could do with some Velcro strap trainers, with 7 or 8 pastel colours on them. That's what children wear. They work for children, and we're slowly being, regressing and being controlled by a nanny state and big corporations to get us into this childlike state so they can feed us any message and also sell us any product. And I don't actually care what people wear, and what I think about people wear isn't important. Also, you have to remember that. I say these things anyway because I want to share what I think, but I don't share them for you to have to agree with me. And I was pointing out that people think that they have choice in the main when all they're doing is buying into someone else's dream. And that's what consumerism is, even for the basics such as food. And we all know the brand names of products, and we become accustomed to their taste, often because of the sugar content. The mainstream is a contrived systemic state of mass hypnotism, and people feel that they're part of something and they willfully comply. So I think I'm going to stop here. I'm a little tired and I want to do some programming tonight. So if anybody wants to ask a question, you have 30 seconds starting from now while I pretend to do important technical stuff. So I didn't see you there, Mr. Chris, but yeah, chatting with older people, it's fantastic, and obviously you get your crazies just like anywhere. It's, they're just a reflection of who we are. But I find the wisdom is what I like, someone who's been around, even if someone thinks they're silly, they've been around for like 70 years. They've seen so much of the same stuff and they've experienced things from, different generations, different eras and so on. And they express it with an honesty, or they formulate their own idea of about how the world is, and it's amazing. When you take some of that on board, it really does us good. And yeah, X marks the spot. Everything's about an X. X is where it's at. Edgy. So I'm going to do a couple of shows in a week. I'll end this because I was going to include some other topics here, but I really haven't got the time tonight. And they include why fighting for your cause is always a good idea, why you're never wrong, there is no truth, and also why is everything so expensive. So until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for spending some time with me. I'm the OBG. I don't think people really know the true hypnotic power of television. How it pulls us in and just keeps telling us to consume, buy, and tells us to hate each other and separates us and causes great divides, all under the name of entertainment. And every time I turn on my TV, it's just like no surprise. It's all of those programs and they're pushing out lies, and in between there's the adverts and they do it again and they try